We're back with more Inside the Green Room. I'm Harrison Sanford, and you are not listening to Danny Green. As promised, we had a guest step in for Danny during the course of the playoffs. We'll see him after the series is over, and it looks like it might be over sooner than later. Former Coach of the Year and SiriusXM NBA radio host, Sam Mitchell. Appreciate you joining us, Coach.
Harrison, my pleasure, man. Anytime I can step in for Danny Green. How many championship rings Danny got?
That's 3.
Hey, man, tell him I need to borrow one of them every now.
Hey, well, Danny must have he must have gotten the note that he didn't have to work as a media member today because he was out there hooping. He got the dunk. You must have said something to him while you were in the arena.
No, Danny played well, man. The Philadelphia 76ers tonight against Toronto, they played excellent basketball. And I think early in the game, I think Toronto was trying to establish the game to make it more physical. And I thought when they took Joel Embiid to the floor, it kind of, you know the old saying, don't poke the bear? Well, they woke him up. And when he got up off that floor, man, he was a different player, more determined. And he just started camping out in the paint and going to work. And then from there, when the Raptors started helping him, which I think they're over-helping a little bit too much, that's when James Harden, Tyrese Maxey, and those guys got going. So these first 2 games in Philly, if you're Doc Rivers and the 76ers, you have to be pleased with your offense, your defense, and just the focus that your team is playing with right now.
Yeah, for sure. I'm excited to see what happens in Toronto, especially if Scotty Barnes is able to get on the floor. We have to see what happens, Gary Trent Jr., if he can recover from his non-COVID illness. But, Coach, let's talk about it. Going into the series, you heard all the noise. Nick Nurse versus Doc Rivers. There's no way that the Sixers can, destroy this team with Nick Nurse coaching it and Doc Rivers coaching them. That's what very popular sentiment among Sixers fans, among NBA fans. Did you see the adjustments from the Raptors tonight? Do you think Nick Nurse pulled out a good set of adjustments, or maybe he held on to some of the things that he really wanted to do, considering the fact he didn't have Scotty Barnes, considering the fact that Gary Trent Jr. was there, Thaddeus Young as well. So you wonder if he held back, knowing that even if he went full force with adjustments, it might not have been fruitful enough for a victory.
Harrison, I mean, I hear your thought process, but no, because these games are so valuable that you have to try to win them as they come. And look, Nick Nurse is doing an excellent job. Doc is coaching his team excellent. But at the end of the day, I think with the injuries, with Scotty Barnes being out, it's just too hard, man. When you look at what Scotty Barnes brings to the table for the Raptors, defense, inside scoring, able to handle the ball and be a facilitator, and you take that 6'9", 6'10" frame out of the lineup and a guy that can guard 1 through 5, it's going to be some problems for the Raptors. And I think Nick Nurse did an excellent job. But right now, the Raptors are overmatched. These first 2 games in Philly, they've been overmatched. Philadelphia, Joel Embiid, Maxey, Harden, they have been playing very solid, strong basketball. And I don't think it's anything that Nick Nurse can do right now, because if Joel Embiid is going to play like this, it's going to be hard for the Raptors to win this series because he is just too big and too dominant. You think about this. When the Raptors jumped out to a lead early, Fred VanVleet knocking down threes, think about this. The Raptors work hard to move the ball to get a wide open jump shot. Philadelphia just threw the ball inside and Joel Embiid went to the free throw line. They stayed in the game in the first quarter. They were down 1 at the end of the first quarter. Basically, the Raptors played as well as they could play and shot the ball as well as they could. Philadelphia was making free throws. Now, I turned to my partner, Leo Rowden, and I said, this can't keep going. The Raptors are not going to make more threes than the 76ers can make free throws, right? And so at the end of the day, I just think Joel Embiid planted that flag in the paint. He got aggressive, and then everyone just played off him. And if he's going to play like that, this is going to be a long, tough series because Toronto's got to come out. In Toronto, they got to come out hard. They got to come out fast. But the problem is, when they go to their bench, can they sustain it?
Yeah, it's one thing I think a lot of people did not factor in when that Raptors team beat the Sixers back in 2019. Yeah, there was a lot of swarming of Joel Embiid, but they also had Marc Gasol, Serge Ibaka, big bodies. Yes. The Raptors don't have big bodies anymore to help with those traps and those double teams on Joel Embiid. And this is to show you just how much Joel Embiid has become an MVP-like player. He's spraying that ball if there's an opportunity to pass it to one of his teammates. And now, and we could talk about this because Game 3 is coming up in Toronto where Matisse Thybulle won't play. I think the addition of Danny Green in that lineup now is making it even easier for Joel Embiid to facilitate as a passer because you got Joel Embiid and 4 shooters out there. It's a very difficult matchup for any team to cover, especially if you cannot have Joel Embiid one-on-one in the paint.
I just think Doc is giving Nick Nurse and this Raptors team some different looks. He's putting Joel Embiid in different situations. He's not just playing a lot of high screening role with Joel Embiid and James Harden. That's what people kind of expected. Doc has went away from that. And you're right. Danny Green being on the floor, it's just tough, man, because either Joel Embiid is forcing the Raptors to double team or James Harden is getting in the paint and the Raptors are collapsing. And then he's just finding people. And once that first pass is made and you get the Raptors in rotation, it's over because I don't care how good a basketball team you have, you're not going to outrun that ball. If team is passing it, you can't outrun the ball.
Sixers are shooting 30 of 62 from the three-point line. One more time. 30 of 62 from the three-point line, 48%. Tyrese Maxey in this series so far shooting 66% from the field, which brings me to my next point, Coach. When we started this series, and since James Harden has come to the Philadelphia 76ers, all we've heard, James Harden has the pressure. He's had more features than DJ Khaled. All these guys that he's played with, he's never won anything. How well can he play when it really matters? And a lot of it was, warranted because he has not played well in the biggest of moments. But the way I've seen it now, especially with the way that Tobias Harris is playing as a catch and shoot player, sometimes isolation, the way Tyrese Maxey is playing in isolation as a catch and shoot guy, 43% from the three-point line this season. I don't think James Harden needs to be Houston Harden. I just think he needs to facilitate the offense, run a clean game, be a helpful defender, and occasionally take over. Do you feel that James Harden needs to be the guy that we're used to seeing, the close to MVP candidate type of guy going forward for the Philadelphia 76ers?
I would say this, as of yet, no. But there's going to come a point in the playoffs, and it may not be this series, but there's going to come a point in the playoffs where James Harden is going to have to take over some games. And he's going to have to be that guy that was in Houston, that dominant guy that can get to the hole, that can knock down threes on the step back. He's going to have a game or two in this series if they're going to advance and keep winning. Maybe not against the Toronto Raptors, but he's going to have to do it at some point in the playoffs because teams are smart. They're going to figure out how to kind of limit Joel a little bit, and they're going to stop trapping as much. And they're going to put the onus on James right now because James, if you watch him play, he's not just beating people off the dribble like he normally does. He's playing a very smart, headed game right now. And he's being smart right now. He's letting Matisse Thybulle, he's letting others help him. And for all the talk about who was going to be that third guy, that fourth guy, I think if you're Doc Rivers, you got to be ecstatic right now. Your entire team, when they're called upon, each individual is playing well. So I just think right now, when you look at Philadelphia and how they're playing with the confidence that they're playing, if you're Doc Rivers, the adjustments that you're making are small things, but he keeps constantly putting his team in good position. And the way they're shooting the ball right now, and the way he has Joel Embiid playing, think about it. Pascal Siakam started going off a little bit that second quarter. Who did Doc put on him? Joel Embiid, and all of a sudden just shut it down. So whenever you have a center who can cause a double team and then take the best forward offensively from a defensive standpoint on the other team and shut him down, then you're working with something. And if they play like this, guys, it's going to be hard. I mean, look, there's going to be a point in time, like I said, when James Harden's going to have to take over a game. But if he doesn't have to do this in this series against Philadelphia, it's even better because all he's doing right now is building confidence with his other teammates, building confidence with himself. And you guys know this, a confident team that's playing well this time of year is a dangerous team.
For sure. I think, when it comes to the Sixers, I think the third guy is the open guy. Joel Embiid and James Harden are going to be the ones who create an advantage for somebody else. That third guy might be Tobias Harris. The third guy might be Tyrese Maxey. Third guy might be Danny Green. It's the open guy that really gets to take advantage of the opportunities that somebody like Joel gets to create for them because he is that dominant. Speaking of game 3 and game 4, one thing I do have to worry about or be concerned about if you're paying attention to the Philadelphia 76ers is the workload. So this year, Coach, Danny's played pretty much the lowest amount of minutes that he's played since 2011, 2012. Last year, he averaged 27 minutes for the Sixers, which was a lot for him at this stage in his career. You're going to Toronto. I know Matisse Thybulle hasn't been great, but he has been able to steal minutes. Go to Toronto, he cannot play. So Danny's going to have to play a lot more minutes, or somebody's going to have to come in and fill in that role. How would you approach that situation if you're Doc Rivers?
Well, it's going to be tough. You said it's not that, Thybulle's playing great basketball, but like you said, he steals minutes. He gives guys a chance to come off the floor and get a blow. Doc Rivers, look, this is the playoffs. And if he has to extend some guys' minutes, Joel Embiid minutes a little bit, Danny's minutes, then guys will expect that. Look, come playoff time, you figure out you got to win 16 games to win the championship. Right now, Philadelphia has 14 wins. So if you're Doc Rivers, you look at your players and look, man, we're going to be down a guy that's in our rotation. But my question to you guys are, how fast do you want to get to 14? Right? And look, guys are wired for this. Come playoff time, you just get in your mind, and Doc has had this conversation with Joel, and James. If I need to play you 45, 47 minutes a game in the playoffs, then I would do that, because at this point in time during the season, all you're doing is watching film and playing. You're not really practicing. You may go on the court, take some shots just to keep your game tight and keep your edge. But for the most part, you want to play and rest. And it's even better if you win and rest.
Yeah, for sure. That game 3 is pivotal. Have a real strong chance to take a lot of the morale out of the Toronto Raptors team, especially if somebody like Scotty Barnes can't play. But you already know, Coach, those fans have been waiting urgently to have a playoff game. They haven't had a playoff game in Scotiabank Arena since they won the championship, because they were in the bubble, and then last year's team did not make the playoffs. And even if they did, they were in Tampa.
Yeah.
What do you expect to see? And another thing too, and we didn't talk about this as well, Coach, that half-court offense for the Raptors. Yes, you have Pascal Siakam. Fred VanVleet had his run there in that first quarter specifically. OG played well throughout. One important factor for them that has not played well yet is Gary Trent Jr. If he is able to come over this non-COVID illness and be the Gary Trent Jr. that he's been for them all year, with that home crowd, without a plus defender in Matisse Thybulle, how different does the outlook look? How different is the outlook for game 3 if they can get a Gary Trent Jr. who's back to quote unquote normal?
Potentially, it could really swing in the Raptors' favor. But look, I saw Gary Trent Jr. tonight. He is a shell of himself. He is really sick. He is not feeling well at all. He looked like he's lost a little weight. So it's going to be hard for him to get ready to play. When's the next game? Wednesday, right?
Wednesday
in Toronto. So it's going to be tough, man. I would look. He's going to have a couple of days if they can get some fluids in him and get his body to calm down, and he can get some strength and energy, maybe. But it's going to be tough, man. Look, it's the thing the Raptors understand. They cannot go down 0-3. They understand that. So if you're Philadelphia and you're Doc, you're telling your team right now, they're going to throw everything plus the kitchen sink. They're going to get up and down the court in transition. They're going to shoot threes. They're going to drive the basket, because they understand that if they lose this game, the series is practically over. So I expect the Toronto Raptors to come out and play well. I expect Gary Trent Jr. If he tries to play tonight, I guarantee he's going to try to play Wednesday. And look, it's playoff time. No one feels good. It's unfortunate that he's sick right now with a non-COVID illness, but give him credit. He tried to go out there and cut it out and play. But, man, at the end of the day, you got to give Philadelphia credit. They did what they were supposed to do. They protected home court. Now they got to figure out how to go to Toronto and steal a game.
I want to talk about the games that we're going to see on Tuesday night. But before we do that and go to break, we have to talk about the realistic expectation for this Philadelphia 76ers. I believe, Coach, you can tell me if I'm wrong, I believe the Philadelphia 76ers are more talented than the Toronto Raptors. They should win this series. Maybe they win it in a sweep. Maybe they win it in 5. It'd be almost a shame if it goes to 6, but it could. I don't think it should go to 7 now. I think they're way too talented for that. I also believe that they are more talented than the Miami Heat, especially because the Heat don't have a lethal perimeter scorer that requires them to play Matisse Thybulle, which means they could play Embiid with optimal spacing with 4 shooters, obviously Danny being that 5th starter. I think once they get to the conference finals and you play either a Brooklyn or Boston or Milwaukee, then it gets a little bit more dicey. And I think if you're a Sixers fan, you just have to be happy if they're competitive in the Eastern Conference Finals. Is that a realistic expectation for you, or am I setting my hopes too short or too high?
That you get to the finals. You can't guarantee a championship, but I think any team that gets to the NBA Finals, you have to say you've had a successful season because now you're one of two teams that got a chance to win the ring. And so just getting to the finals guarantees you have a successful season. Now, obviously, you want to win it because you don't know how many opportunities you have a chance to get back. But I think this team, look, they're the second most talented team in the Eastern Conference to me. I still think Milwaukee is the best team on paper when you look at Giannis and the size with Lopez, Drew Holiday, and Middleton and others. But if you look at the second best team, and I would say Philly from this standpoint, Joel, as great as Kevin Durant is, Joel Embiid is a different animal. I mean, you're talking about 7 feet, 285, and he uses that size. He's a bully on the court, which he should be. So to me, if Philly can get to the Eastern Conference Finals against the Milwaukee team or whoever and get to the finals, then at that point, I think you have to say it was a successful season, even if they don't finish it off with a championship.
Fair enough, Coach. When we come back with Inside the Green Room with Sam Mitchell, we will break down Tuesday's games, the Hawks, Heat, Grizzlies, Timberwolves. That's a fun series. And the Suns and the Pelicans. We'll be right back. Back with more Inside the Green Room. I'm Harrison Sanford. Sam Mitchell, former Coach of the Year, filling in for Danny Green right here on the SiriusXM Podcast Network. Game 2, Miami Heat, Atlanta Hawks. Did not look too good for Trae Young in that first game. A season low in points. Miami Heat, the number 1 seed, get them again. Coach, do you think it's more of the same going into game 2 Tuesday night?
Look, I think Miami obviously winning the East. They're a better team than Atlanta. They should win the series, but I'm a Trae Young believer. Look, he has been outstanding since the playoffs last year. Yeah, he was worn down in that first game against Miami because they had to, playing in that play-in tournament, man, emotionally it drains. I mean, it drains your emotions and stuff. And so they came off a high of qualifying through the play-in tournament, and then they had to jump on the plane and go down to South Beach and play Miami. And look, if you're Nate McMillan, you just say to your team, look, guys, it's one game. If we win game 2, no one cares what was the score or how we played in game 1. And I know for a fact, Trae Young is going to be ready to play. He's going to play a lot better. Even though I'm saying that, I still think Miami's a better team. I think Miami can win this series in 5, maybe 6 if Atlanta can catch fire. But I just think when you look at Jimmy Butler and others, Bam, Kyle Lowry and others, I just think they're too strong and they're too good a defensive team to lose to this Hawk team. I think the Hawks can scare them, but I think at the end of the day, I think Miami's just a little too strong.
Got to be encouraged to see John College suited up for the team, even though nobody expected him to play, especially with Clint Capella being out. We'll see if those guys can come back and might be able to swing another game or 2 for the Hawks. But obviously those Miami Heat with Eric Spoelstra, as some would say, Heat culture reigned supreme in game 1. We'll see what happened in game 2. All right. Game 2 of what might be the best first round series outside of Brooklyn and the Boston Celtics, the Minnesota Timberwolves and the Memphis Grizzlies. Now, Memphis, everybody's been on Memphis all year, Coach, and rightfully so. They've been hooping. But I look at Minnesota with Anthony Edwards, not only a dynamic scorer, dynamic player, but a young star. I know you must appreciate this. You must appreciate this, Coach. A young star who prides himself in playing defense. He said he's wrong, but he said he's the best defensive player in the league. And even the fact that he said that is a positive thing because you usually don't get that from young stars. And then you have Patrick Beverly. You got guys like Jared Vanderbilt. This is a team that hits threes and prides itself or wants to pride itself in defense. Did Memphis want too much smoke?
We're going to find out. Listen, I was impressed by the way Timberwolves went in Memphis and beat them. But if you go back and look at the season series, both teams split and both teams won on their home court. So this is a even match series. And now that Minnesota has drew first blood, then it is on, man. Look, if you're Memphis, that with all the talk and talking about how tough and good this team is, if you lose game 2 at home and go down 0-2, it is going to be a long road to try to recover. So look, I expect Memphis to come out, play a lot better, but I also expect Minnesota not to take a step back. This is a better series, a better matchup for Karl Anthony Towns. I think Anthony Edwards can go get his against anyone. By the way, he's from Georgia, like myself, a Georgia boy, so it would not surprise me him feeling that he's the best defensive player in the league. And in another 2 years, he's going to think he's the best player in the league, period. That's a topic for another day. But I just think at the end of the day, Karl Anthony Towns, he likes to match up against Steven Adams because he can face him up and take him off the dribble. I think Memphis, what they're going to have to really look at is putting Jaren Jackson Jr. on Karl Anthony Towns. You got to put someone on him with size, but also foot speed that can move with Karl. And I think at the end of the day, Taylor Jenkins, one of the adjustments he's going to have to make is maybe take Steven Adams out a little earlier and go with JJ at center.
Yeah, we saw maybe somebody like Brandon Clark could help. We saw what Ty Lue did against Cat, using people like Nick Batum against him as well to kind of take him off of his game. It'll be interesting to see if Jaren Jackson Jr. gets that assignment. Can he actually stay out of foul trouble? I remember when I covered the Lakers, he struggled with guys like Anthony Davis all the time. He's always in foul trouble. You need to stay on the court because you're right. Steven Adams cannot stick with Cat. And if Cat's going to win his matchup, maybe Anthony Edwards wins his matchup, and you get guys like Patrick Beverly guarding John Morant, it could turn here quick. It's a very fun series to watch. Very, very fun series to watch. Excited to see what's going to happen in game 2. And then finally, last game of Tuesday night, Coach, I know Chris Paul went on his little streak there at the end of the fourth quarter against the New Orleans Pelicans. But you know what? When I started looking at the matchup, I was impressed or kind of surprised. I didn't think about how much length the Pelicans could put on somebody like Chris Paul or Devin Booker with guys like Brandon Ingram, Herbert Jones. They have some lengthy guys there for Trey Murphy. They got some lengthy guys there in New Orleans, but at the same time, you got a guy like Mikal Bridges guarding CJ McCollum. So when you look at the matchup here and the guys in Phoenix, they execute to a T. Nobody executes better. Do you have any reasons for optimism for the Pelicans in game 2 or in the series in general?
Guys, look, I'm not saying they can't win a game, but understand something. Phoenix has been the best team for the last 2 years, hands down. No questions asked. And so I would find it would be one of the biggest upsets in the history of the NBA if this New Orleans team can win this series. That being said, I expect them to be competitive. I know they're going to play hard. Willie Green has done a fantastic job after a 1-12 start to keep this team focused and keep their eyes on the prize, which is making the playoffs. So they've expended a lot of energy to get to this point. But at the end of the day, man, Phoenix is a beast. They've been the best team the last 2 years. They proved it night in and night out. And I just can't see them taking their foot off the gas because they want this championship for Chris Paul more than anything.
Yeah, it's going to be a scary thing as this playoffs keeps going on. People are really going to see how effective Phoenix has been. They've kind of been under the radar, which is kind of weird when you think about it. One thing I don't want to see though, Coach, I'm going to be upset if I see it. If I see Zion Williamson do a little pregame dunk one more time, but not actually playing the game, I would be upset. If I was a Pelicans fan, I'd be upset because you feel like that could have been something. That could have been something, but unfortunately it's not. Coach, thank you for your time. I'll leave here with this. Shout out to all the Raptors fans who listen to the pod. Shout out to all the Sixers fans who listen to the pod and any NBA fan that does listen to the pod. Doc Rivers on the microphone tonight talking about Danny Green's dunk. He said that's the equivalent to me dunking out there.
I give Danny a little bit more juice than Doc. Doc broke down more than I am. Doc can't touch the bottom of the net no more, so Doc needs to stop playing. Doc know he can't touch. Do you see how Doc walk?
Yeah, I see it. Man, Danny's gonna be on that too soon. Keep dunking like
Doc,
that.
Doc can barely skip. He has no chance of dunking. Dude, if I jump up there, I can still grab the rim, but when I do it, I get a nosebleed. So I don't even do that anymore. I'm afraid to jump. Seriously, I'm afraid to jump because I don't know how ugly it's going to be when I come down.
Oh, hey, listen, at least you can get up. At least you still got somewhat of the springs in you.
Hey man,
I
but I'm
didn't.
scared to come down, so I don't jump.
I think Danny has learned. I think because he's got his layups blocked enough this year, not dunking it. He learned better that if you're gonna go up there, you might as well finish it. So that was fun to watch. Looking forward to Game 3 in Toronto, as Coach Mitchell said. A lot can change in Game 3. Make sure you tune in right here inside the Green Room on the SiriusXM Podcast Network to stay updated and get all of your insight into the Sixers series versus the Raptors. Once again, thank you. Make sure you subscribe, rate, review, and we'll see you next time.